Okay guys, welcome back to the Failed Breakdown channel. It's been a couple of months since we've done one of these, but thought we'd do a trade recap today of yesterday's trade from Tuesday the 12th of May, around the 73.67 to 72 level. Kind of triggered, a number of different options. I'm actually not sure how Mike traded it. He doesn't know how I traded it either, so should be interesting to review each other's approaches to that. And then from today, Wednesday, the failed breakdown of 74.16, which was a low we put in during the pre-market session, and then we swept it and recovered, and it's currently about 11 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Currently trading around 74.36, so that failed breakdown is still active, and holding runners on that one. So with that, just a reminder, we're doing our best to follow Adam's trade plan and his methodology, but we are in no way, affiliated with him. We're just subscribers like everyone else. So defer to him for the full breakdown. A little bit surprised to see he didn't trade the 73, 67, 72 yesterday, but he's got runners from so far beneath. I guess he was under no pressure to force anything. Unlike me, I've been spending a lot of time on the sidelines recently, so it was nice to see some red when we woke up yesterday morning, and then get the sell-off. So let's bring in the charts here. So what we're looking at here is actually a 10-minute chart. Right in the middle of the chart here is yesterday's action. And then on to today's, obviously over on the right. The light blue bands are kind of the morning session, and then the afternoon session. Green is pre-market, grey is London, and white is kind of the slower time periods in between. So I think coming into, let's touch real quick on the context. As I say, it was pretty nice to wake up yesterday morning and see some red. So we dipped off the highs at 74.55. And we had dipped back down to 74.02, and this was kind of the real important thing coming into the morning. We bounced off that level multiple times. Obviously 74.02 was a major low from Monday, which was, you kind of set the low, and then we just rocketed up to the highs. But we bounced off it then once, twice, three times, put in a failed breakdown here with the CPI print. And so what that sets up then, if we're to lose that level, is kind of our first significant breakdown. And we lost that low in the morning session, back tested it from beneath, but because of that, given the context, this was a relatively significant sell compared to what we've seen lately. For me, it was hands off all during the morning session here. I didn't touch any of this, wasn't interested, was just happy to wait and see how how this sell-off developed, and giving it plenty of time. So there were a couple of lows in here. There was the 73.90, but that really wasn't part of the trade plan, given that we were breaking down just above that. So I did put in a little bit of a bounce there. Looked like it was going to reclaim 74.02 and then failed beneath. What were your thoughts on kind of the context coming into the day, Mayank? Anything you want to add to that?
So 74.02, that was our key critical level. And so once we lost that, that kind of turns on that old sell algo friend of ours. And,
Mm.
below there was really nothing right below it, because you generally want to give, some space below it for price to fail. And so that's kind of why those lows at 90, for example, are just not exactly valid, because it's too close to that major breakdown level. And so it'd be just safer to wait for that breakdown level to reclaim. So really, for me, once we lost O2, the first thing that was going to be of interest would have been sort of the area we're going to touch on, which was kind of that whole 67 to 72 zone. Um, so that's kind of just what I was personally waiting for at that point.
Yeah, great. Same for me. And this was really very textbook kind of breakdown in the way that Adam describes it. You get multiple tests of the level. You put in a failed breakdown that fails, and then it maybe attempts to recover one more time. It can't hold above, and then we flush down, and we got a good 40-point sell from that point, and we'd already sold 50 points down from there. So we end up being almost 100 points off the high, coming into some major levels around, what was this, around 11:30 was sort of when we arrived at the zone of interest. Bounced right off of 64 up to 82, and let's just drop down time frames a little bit to a 10-minute. So do you want to talk through your entry? I'm assuming you traded this, right? I actually don't know, but how did you trade it if you did?
Yeah, so for me, I noticed that the low technically was around like 67, 68 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the level, still that Adam was kind of watching was 72. That's kind of what he mentioned. So, for me, simply, I would just kind of applied the non-acceptance protocol, and just kind of had a danger zone above that whole region, essentially up till 77 or so, and was just kind of watching to see if we would hold above that area with a little bit of momentum that I personally liked, and holding for it for a few minutes, and got that around 11:45 or so. That is kind of when I personally took it. I took it around 73.80, roughly around there. I did have to sit through this in a couple of hours of drawdown and chop, and I believe Adam had said the same thing yesterday, that he didn't take it, but he thought by 11:45 it triggered, and then from there it just was a little bit choppy. We actually did have to even retest the lows once, and we didn't sweep the lows, but we kind of bounced right back almost right there as like kind of a double bottom. And kind of just, eventually got some news around 1 o'clock or so, and then was able to sort of have some momentum to actually start playing out. So that's kind of when I took it personally, 11:45 above 77 area, just sat in it for, over an hour of just chop, and then eventually it kind of took off, and then once it really took off, it really started to kind of, you saw some really, really good momentum start playing.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I think the key there was we never lost the low. So, per methodology, stop goes below the lowest low. Nothing significant happens until that breaks. The failed breakdown is active. So hold that and then ride it out. For me, I took actually significantly later entries. So given kind of the breakdown and the first sort of significant sell-off we'd had in a while, I was happy just to let this kind of churn for a little bit. We did have a little bit of a low here at 73.80, which was sort of coming back into on that first reclaim, and then we rejected from there and went down a little bit more. So at this point, kind of midday Eastern time, which was right around here, I was just waiting to see if we were going to flush the lower day down at 73, 63. That would have been a nice option, or if we were going to sell even lower beneath that to, what's the level below, 37. So those were kind of my two primary options at this point. But seeing, around as we were approaching 1 o'clock Eastern time, 11:50 my time, we weren't able to flush that lower day. You put in a little bit of a doji here, and then started lifting with some decent momentum back up through the level. So I actually took the trade at 76. Right around 12:06 was my entry Central Time, so 1:06 Eastern Time. What I liked about that was, we just kind of cleared through some of the noise. Price action was easing up a little bit. You can kind of see the space to the left of the candles, so it's a little less choppy. And then we broke this downtrend line in doing that, recovered the level. We failed to break lower day, and we were pushing up with some momentum. So that's how I took it. And it ran pretty nicely, and that leads us into today. I was half expecting a reaction here at 74.02, that kind of red box I've drawn on the screen here. I was expecting to get a dip off that, but we didn't get anything at all. There were just no sellers left in the room. Um, yeah, pretty surprising not to see a little bit of a backtest short action come in there, but just ripped straight through it. Back up, made the high of the day right at the end of the day. Pushed up overnight and then got a nice little bit of a sell into the morning. So yeah, some nice two-way action happening again now. You've gotten through that crazy parabolic rally we had a few weeks back, and opening up some more opportunities here. So on to today then. You've opened up the day well above our pre-planned entries for the day from the newsletter. First support down was 74.02, that critical level, which was really just a level reclaim at this point. But we had set a couple of nice intermediate lows above that. We had 74.16 in the pre-market and 74.10 from the evening session last night. We dipped quite dramatically to create that 74.16. And that bounced. How far did that bounce? We got a 18-point bounce off of that, so just about meeting the requirements for a significant low. Nice thing here is we flushed all three of these levels. And as mentioned in the pre-market, for me, I was always going to wait for 74.16 low to recover before trying an entry. There were possible entries lower down here if you wanted to, but for me, I was waiting for that level. So pretty straightforward on this one. Let me just drop down a little bit more so we can kind of see. This is a 3-minute chart. You see we flushed through it, back tested on the way down, and I was wondering if we were going to lift from that point. We failed to reclaim, dipped, flushed 10, flushed 02, enticing some shorts, came back, put in a little bit of type 1 acceptance on the way back up, where we tested 16, dipped back to 10 here, when 10 held, and then we came back. There was a bit of a fight around the level. I got in probably a little bit early on this one, right around 10 o'clock Eastern time, and there was, at this point, seeing it struggle, for me, I wasn't really willing to hold for lower day, to have my stop under lower day at that point. There was a fairly significant battle happening around the 74.16 level, so I probably would have cut somewhere around 74.10 if we weren't able to push up at that point. But after half an hour or so, we did eventually lift and got first and second trims, and now just sat in the runner. So fairly straightforward, although it did take a little bit more time on that one. How did you trade this Mike?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of liked the sell initially into it. Um, and then when we kind of came back, the first thing I liked was, it seemed like a decent rubber band effect. We kind of hit 74.02 and got right back above fairly quickly
Mm-hmm.
to test 74.10, 74.11 area. But then from there, it started getting a bit choppy, just in the sense of it wasn't really clearing with a ton of momentum and force. And so because of that, I personally just chose, and I think Adam has talked about this quite a bit as well now, which is if you're ever unsure, just wait for NAP and wait for the danger zone to clear, right? So for me, that was kind of the situation. I personally was reading the price action where I was just like, I didn't feel, super great about longing anything right next to the level. So I kind of waited and I took the long just about at 74.17. So, gave it some points above the danger zone, kind of was letting momentum kind of hit and hold. Even with that, it still wasn't a direct shot. in terms of when I got in and when I got my sell. I got in around 10:04. Actually, no. I would okay, I take that back. I technically only held this for about 2 minutes. So I don't know why it seemed longer, but I got in at 10:04 and got out at 10:06 at 22. For me, I was a little bit more diligent on profit takes here, just because again of the context. Not a super large sell into the level. Plus, the momentum was kind of okay at the time to me. I didn't think we were in a great state there, and still not really even getting towards anywhere close to the bottom of the range, still kind of hanging out in just the middle of what may be our mode 2 range here. So
Hmm.
I personally was just a little bit more diligent, just took profit takes at 22 and 28 and didn't and yeah, didn't bother trying to stretch any profit takes out.
So were you applying the danger zone to the 74.10 level and then giving it some just to get above the 74.16? So
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you?
I applied it to the 10 because that was kind of the more, that was really the significant low, right? The 16 was a little bit more borderline for me. So as long as we were above it, I was planning on taking the long anyways above it. But I personally applied the danger zone to the 74.10 spot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't really apply any sort of danger zone. I was just waiting for the 16 to clear, and got in right around 17 up on that. Yeah, perhaps could have been a bit more patient
Yeah.
with that entry, but I
I mean,
think
it
we are
seems like we
pretty
got
close.
in around the same spot. Uh, so seems like we were pretty close. Like I said, I think I got in 10:03, 10:04 ish.
Yeah, yeah, sounds. Yeah, I was right at 10. So, all right, great. Well, I haven't got anything else to add to that, and we'll see how Adam traded it, if he did or not.
If he did, yeah.
Yeah, maybe he didn't. Like I say, he didn't trade yesterday's. Or at least I don't think he did. I was kind of flying through the newsletter yesterday. It didn't seem like he did, so maybe he didn't touch this one either. Um, okay, well, any closing comments?
No, I mean that's it. I mean, again, pretty straightforward. Just not much of a sell though. That's the only thing I would note. Right, we're kind of again in that environment where we're not getting these massive sells. If you even look at the daily kind of candles in ES, it's been kind of absurd. I mean, we've really yet to retrace much of this rally. So, context constantly changes, environments constantly change, and for us, it's just the ability to take the set of rules that we have and knowing how to apply that to different contexts and different environments, because those nuances, that snowflake, that's really what kind of can make or break your trading and take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the one thing I wish I'd done differently yesterday was size up a little bit, because it was a relatively significant sell, based on what we've seen lately. So probably could have sized up on that one, but I just took it kind of regular size for me. Alrighty, well that's it. We'll get this posted. Catch you guys on the next one or in the morning live streams. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.